Recording resumed.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another cast by Cepheus, and with me today I have SuperNovaManiac, is that right?
Yes, it is. Some call me S&M, but I would like SuperNovaManiac a little bit better because S&M sounds a little PG-13-ish.
I can see that. I'm very glad that I have you with me today. We're gonna be watching a game between our tops. I can't talk today. Our third player in the top right corner is Franscar.
And his opponent, a Protoss player spawning as Red Protoss on the bottom right position, formerly from Complexity Gaming. His name is rsvp.
Man, you know a lot more about him than I do. Okay, I didn't know that.
Just a little bit, just a little bit.
Just a tad.
Not much.
So this is going to be very interesting. If you know anything about Starbow and the ladder system we have, you'll know that rsvp has been wrecking it up, and he's not currently number 1 anymore, but he was at the time he played this game. I think he's number 2 now, but it's really close to being number 1. And Franscar as well is really high up on the ladder, so these are two very eligible Starbow players.
I mean, if you go a little bit deeper into the ladder system, rsvp, when the ladder first came out, he always stayed in the first place, and then he hasn't played as much because he's not a pro gamer. He has some real life stuff, you know, he might have to go study, might have to go do a job, but he's always consistently in there. And if you also compare his StarCraft 2 record, he was a professional gamer, so he's been having great success in Starbow so far. Franscar, I haven't heard much of him just yet, so I'm really interested to see how he plays in this game.
Yeah, it's same with her. It seems that rsvp is going to go for the little cannon trickery, but that's going to be spotted right away by the Overlord, but he still does it.
Oh, he's going to try to get in, and he actually gets inside. This is a little trick on Fighting Spirit. I didn't know that this was actually possible on Starbow, but this little tricky position everywhere on Fighting Spirit, you could get behind the mineral lines with 2 pylons, just put the cannons down, and the Zerg starts crying.
Yeah, I don't know if this is actually every position, but I guess it is. But if rsvp found this out, to be honest, I'm actually the guy who goes over the maps before they publish, and I didn't know this. But it's kind of cool that it's there, though, to be honest.
You know, if did you actually make the maps same as Brood War?
It's
like the mineral patches?
It's some of them yes and no. Like we don't look at the mineral patches too closely when we make the maps. It's more the other stuff we look at, but I did not make this map myself, so I don't know how equal this is for Brood War.
Well, this was also some of the one of the popular strategies that Protoss players love to do on this particular map because of the fact that Protosses can actually get a cannon behind the main hatchery line if the opponent does not get a drone inside there in time. And the difference between Starbow and StarCraft Brood War is that you cannot drone trick to actually send the drones behind the mineral line, so it's actually harder to defend against the cannon rushes.
That is true. We see the spine crawlers though burrowing down. He's going to try and break this down with Zerglings and spine crawlers are very tough compared to photon cannons in Starbow, so I think he'll be able to do this. I also saw Franscar sending his Zerglings down to rsvp and counterattacking, and rsvp responding beautifully by pulling up a full wall on photon cannon. rsvp saw that with his Overlord and just turned his Zerglings around.
I mean, as a person who made it into C-/C only using this cannon rush build back in Brood War, the only thing that you really have to worry about is a counterattack at your natural right away, because this right here, one, it forces a lot of Zerglings, a lot of spawn crawlers at the natural, which you do not want as a Zerg player. Two, you're only mining from one base for such a long time, so you're losing mining time. So this, even if the cannon rush gets defended, this is really good for rsvp right now. The only thing that I'm a little bit iffy about is that his Nexus went down a little bit later because he wanted to wall off the natural completely.
Yeah, and he had to wall off that natural. That counterattack was eight Zerglings, I think, and he had no defenses whatsoever. Would you say, though, that rsvp is in a better position right now?
Certainly, right now, Franscar, I'm not too sure if getting a third hatch inside the main base was a correct decision, because there was only cannons at the natural, which means that the only thing rsvp could have done is try to cannon his third if the natural went down, or, I mean, rsvp is not going to have any units to attack the third base, so having this macro hatch inside the main base, I'm not too sure about that, unless he wants to go for some kind of timing attack against his opponent.
I completely agree with that. That third base would have been perfectly safe at another location. You know, Franscar may be behind economically, but he is ahead in tech and army right now, you know, forcing out that many Zerglings early on. So he would have been perfectly safe with an early third match, and there we go. He's putting it down now.
Yeah, double clock position. He's not going to be aggressive in this game. It's a little bit interesting how the difference between StarCraft, Brood War, and Starbow is coming out, especially on a map like Fighting Spirit, because back in Fighting Spirit and Brood War, a lot of players would love to take the natural and then take the main base right after. But in Starbow, in the games that I've been playing, they like to take a closer to their base so that it's easier to defend early on in the game compared to the Brood War style, where it's like all you have to do is get some spine crawlers and just defend the natural easily.
Yeah, you would like to take the natural base, and then you have an easy access to another main base with one defense. But you know, you had bypassing geometry in Brood War was more difficult than it is in Starbow. It's even more easy in StarCraft 2, of course, with the Colossus and, you know, all the units that walk up the cliffs and stuff. But you still want to have the army closer, it seems, than static defenses.
Yeah, and that's just a trend that we've been seeing in Starbow games, or at least the ones that I've been seeing in the past couple of days.
No, I agree, though.
Hydra then going down for Franscar, as this is just gonna transition into a regular game between the two players, as rsvp is gonna... Ooh. There we go. I forgot the name of this little cute unit. It's just slipping my mind right.
Sentinel.
Sentinel.
rsvp loves his Sentinel play. He does it all the time. If you watched rsvp versus QXC in the Starbow show match they had at Ender's game, he pretty much just destroyed QXC with Sentinels early game. Got a huge lead and just took the game after that. So I'm very excited to see the Sentinel play.
Yeah, well, he just needs to micro it well. The shields are down, but rsvp is doing a nice job keeping it alive. He's getting a nice scout inside the main base. And behind all this, there's a 2 Zealots going towards the 12 o'clock position, and there's no defense except the Queen that's already in position. But that's not going to matter, as the Zealots can easily eat away on the Queens. However, here comes the Zerglings, and those are going to easily clean up the Zealot. But the drones have been pulled off for middle line for a second. Not too sure if that was necessary.
Well, it's not the biggest of deals. The Queen with just a little bit support can actually handle quite a lot of Zealots because of the new enraged ability. It does give them a very high attack. And we have 2 Sentinels now scourging around the map, trying to pick off Zerglings. They have a lot of energy for Null Wards, and he might be... Okay, so he's trying to cut off forces between the 2 bases with Null Wards.
This is actually nice, but this is really frustrating for me right now because I'm trying to memorize the names as soon as I go along, and everything is in Korean.
Oh, you're watching this in Korean. Oh, yes, he's getting a couple of workers though with these Sentinels. So that's very nice. Yeah, the little blue things are called Null Wards.
Null Wards, okay. I wish I had more time to research into this, but this is my fault for not researching in the first place. Instead, I was writing Ruby codes for past 2 days without sleeping.
Well, you gotta do that sometimes.
Gotta do that sometimes.
We have an Overseer trying to find out rsvp base. I don't know how much he's seen. He hasn't really seen too much. He hasn't seen the Templar Archives, but the Templar Archives at this point is pretty much a given anyway. Like, you would never play a longer game versus Zerg without getting higher Dark Templars at any point in the game.
And that's a lot of Zerglings going towards the 6 o'clock position, and the Nexus right now is completely uncovered, so that's going to force a cancel over there, as rsvp is going to try to move over there and try to defend the Nexus, but it's not going to work out.
No. It's probably going to try and put it up right after he's defended this though, but that does, you know, slow rsvp down a little bit, and Franscar is kind of getting himself into a better and better position, I feel.
This is really nice because I had a feeling he overcommitted to Zerglings earlier on in the game. Those initial couple of 12 to 14 Zerglings, I'm not too sure about the exact number, those weren't doing anything. They were just sitting in the middle of the map. They weren't even scouting around, so now they've been used for good. And with the Lurkers around, these Zealots, they're just going to die once the Lurkers are in position. But I don't know if Franscar actually saw the Zealots going towards the 12 o'clock position. Now he sees it, but there's no units in position.
Yeah, this is going to be very difficult for Franscar to hold his... At least the rsvp should try and get some drone kills out of this. I don't think he'll be able to kill the Hatcher because the Lurkers are getting into position now, and he actually just has to... I was going to say he's going to have to get out of there, but then he turns around and he tries to attack some more anyway. I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, he could have definitely saved 3 or 4 more Zealots instead of just headbutting into the Spine Crawler and the Lurker at the 12 o'clock position. But the other story is rsvp still trying to secure the 6 o'clock base, but does he have any detection over here? Ooh,
well, the Sentinels actually have a detection ability, and he's using it right now. So that's
He is using the. I don't think he has enough units right now.
No.
The Zons are just melting. The 6 o'clock Nexus is completely exposed, and the Lurkers are going one by one. But this might force another cancel on the Nexus.
nice, hitting the Lurkers there with the Null Ward and actually catching all three of them, but it did cancel that Nexus again, like you said, and he's gonna have to put it up again and putting RSVP very far behind, I feel.
Actually, there wasn't any cancel, so that was a really nice victory by Franscar. RSVP wasn't reacting to it completely.
So we have a 3-base Zerg versus so far only a 2-base Protoss, and Franscar is looking to take another expansion, it seems. He's actually, I'm not sure if he's going to go for the natural domain. There's no like hologram of anything yet, but it looks like it's going to be the natural at some point for this 10 o'clock position.
Yeah, there's no other reason to send the drone over there unless you really want to take the base. There we go, as Franscar is going to take a 4th base. As we go back to RSVP, now he knows he needs to get a lot of cannons up at the 6 o'clock. I think leaving maybe 1 or 2 High Templars at the 6 o'clock to storm the Zerglings might also be a great idea. This is something that a lot of players did back in Brood War, but it seems like he just wants to keep all of his army between the natural and the 6 o'clock and his 3rd base so that he can defend multiple locations at once.
I really like the idea of putting up a couple of High Templars there, especially now that he has a couple of Null Wards placed up, because the Null Wards slow down the units. It makes them harder for them to dodge Storm as well, so that's a really good defensive combination there. And here comes the Zerglings. He's not chrono boosting the Photon Cannons. They're going to go down extremely quickly, and he's probably going to force another cancel. No, he's actually going to sandwich the Zerglings from both sides, and I think he's going to be able to save his Nexus for today.
Yeah, well, this time but the Zerglings actually get through, and that forces a Archon merge. That's really not great news for RSVP. Those, if I remember correctly, those 2 High Templars had plenty of energy for
lots of energy. Oh, Franscar doesn't see this. There's one observer by Franscar's base, and he has the Overseer just outside position, or the Scourgers would kill that observer instantly. That's kind of unfortunate.
I still hate original Overlords that can spot Observer, and because of that, the DT was trying to slice one of the Lurkers, but it's not going to happen as Franscar reacts perfectly.
Yes, in Starbow you need Overseers to spot and not just Overlords like you did in Brood Wars. But you can spawn Overseers from Lair Tech, they're just really slow.
Yes, that's what I'm really thankful for, because those Overlords are never going to get my Observers again in this game.
That's true. That's kind of OP that every Overlord you make is a Detector, so I think that was a nice adjustment for Starbow. Well, here we go. RSVP going to attack into this. No, he does not want to do that. We have Scourgers ready to kill Observers, but he can use the Glare ability for Sentinels, but the Sentinels too are not too beefy. And Scourgers actually suiciding into Null Wards. Ooh, a Null Ward shooting a lot of Scourgers.
And the crucial thing is RSVP, he can still try to make this attack work because he kept the Observer alive in the back, but there's too many Lurkers to spread out, so the Storms can actually hit all of the Lurkers at once. The Dragoon to Zala ratio is too high for the Zala, so it's going to be hard for RSVP to break it in one try, so he's going to have to go back.
He's going to have to get some reinforcements and try that again, but I think Franscar actually could do well and try and slow push forward and try and even contain RSVP on his base, but I don't know if he really needs to at the moment. I think RSVP feels very safe with all the expansions he's taking.
Yeah, well, the goal for Protoss, if they start out with multiple gateways, I mean, I'm comparing this to Brood War, but this seems like the popular Brood War strats seems to be popular in Starbow, so I'm going to talk based on Brood War strategy.
Yeah, you can do that, I think.
If you take a natural expansion, and then if you go for a lot of gateways, try to harass your opponent, no matter how good or bad it is, your next goal is to get a 3rd base. Now, RSVP secured the 3rd base. He has a couple of cannons over there. I still wish he had some High Templars, but it's still completely safe at this point. So he's feeling really comfortable. He doesn't necessarily have to break the Lurker line. All he has to do is get some Zerglings and force the Zerg player to force more, cheaper units out, like a lot of Zerglings or Hydralisk. But here comes a
huge run by into the natural. He really needs to chrono boost those cannons for much better defense. I don't know if he knew about the chrono boost on cannons when he played this game. I know he knows about it now, but those cannons go down so fast when there's no chrono boost on them.
And he's using a lot of workers right now too. It's a total of 14 probes have been killed so far. There's a Templar, 2 Templars just warping into Archons to make sure that he can deal with the Zerglings. Oh, but instead he's not going to come back and defend. He's going to try to go for an attack. In fact, the 4th base is under attack right now with 5 Dragoons, but in the middle of the map. I don't know if he has detection. Yes, he does, and he's going to try to go for the right side of Franscar's base.
When here comes the Defilers into the fray, he doesn't have the energy quite for a Dark Swarm, and I even saw some Banelings in there. There's a lot of stuff going on at the same time. We have attack on Franscar expansion, we have the fight in the middle, and also the run by in the main base, which I think has been thwarted just now. But all in all, I would say Franscar Franscar definitely came out on top of this. The army is still in the middle of the map for RSVP, but it's so small it can't really do anything. He managed to defend his expansion, he managed to do a lot of damage in RSVP's main and natural, so the RSVP really is behind at this moment.
Yeah, and the problem in the middle of the fight is that he actually hockeyed the Dragoon. It seems like he actually hockeyed the Dragoons and the Observers in a different hockey to a point where the Observer was in the middle of nowhere. The Dragoons were getting attacked by Lurkers and the RSVP is panicking, where is my Observer? So that was a little problem for the Protoss player RSVP, but certainly right now, the Dragoon ratio is completely high. There's only 5 Lurkers per road on the field, so if he just gets a lot of units out, then he could try to go for a counter attack. But certainly Franscar is in nice position. The natural is still up and well. And in the midst of all this, Franscar killed up to 18 probes with the Zerglings.
That's pretty sweet. Actually though, RSVP is sneaking up an expansion behind this, and Franscar doesn't really know about this or is not doing anything about this at the moment. But as soon as he finds out, I think he will be able to make quite a bit of forces that will be very difficult for RSVP to deal with.
I'm not too sure about this. He's transitioning into Ultras right now, which means that he's not going to have enough units out on the field. That's a lot of Dragoons right there. He doesn't have enough Zerglings, so the Lurkers are going to get taken out easily. So Franscar now gave up the middle of the map on an area that he always wants to secure, especially if he expands to the left side of the map.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult transition for him, and hopefully he can be able to defend his bases as he does it. But I think as soon as those Ultra upgrades hit and all the Ultras comes in the field, I think he should be able to get back into the map control again, especially if RSVP keeps making all these Dragoons. But it seems like he's switching more to Zealots and High Templars, which is better. Zealot Archon is much better versus Ultralisks than Dragoons are.
Certainly, if RSVP actually knew about the situation about how everything is transitioning into Ultras, then he would have tried to attack into the fort base. But since he didn't know, he said, you know what, I broke the line, I'm feeling comfortable. Oh shit, there are Zerglings and Ultras at my fort base.
Yeah, he's actually managing to cut off a couple of reinforcing Ultralisks, but he does lose the fourth base, and he lost the DT there as well because Franscar was good enough to bring an Observer with him. So, I mean an Overseer with him. So, all in all, Franscar is doing really well right now. There's not even Hydra speed, man. He's just been staying on Zergling, Lurker, Scourge. I really like that style, though.
I mean, that was really viable, especially in Brood War. If you knew how to micro, you wanted a little more Hydras against the Protoss players, but still, you can certainly pull it off, and it also allows you to easily transition into Hive Tech since you're spending less gas on your units. And nice Storm on the Zerglings, but certainly because there's too many Ultras, it's hard for RSVP. So finally, he's making a ward person. He should have made it a long time ago so that when he attacked out in the middle of the map, he could drop some Zealots inside the main base to put Franscar out of position. Yeah. A little bit too late, but he can still utilize it to the fullest potential.
He could also start to maybe make some Warp Tech and Warp Gates, because I don't think he needs to make that many Dragoons anymore. And warping in here and there will definitely pull Franscar in. But RSVP taking control of the middle again, he's been able to get together quite a big army, and Franscar is going to try and sandwich him from all sides, but no, he's backing off and instead he's attacking the fourth base.
Yeah, he doesn't have enough units to actually surround him. Look at his supply right now. He's actually supply capped at 136. Trying to surround this army is not a great idea, especially if you don't have 200 army. Nice plague on the Dragoons, but that's certainly not going to stop this army from moving into Franscar's natural.
Ooh, getting Ultralisk stuck on the doodads there, and ooh, barely survives it a little bit. I like the plague play though, and the Defilers is a nice touch. A few people in Starbow now try to use Defilers in late game.
This is really bad for Franscar. The bridge that's not supposed to be crossed, well, RSVP just crossed it, and that means you can just storm all the Zerg units easily, as the Dragoons are completely covered because of the small choke over there, and the storms are beautiful on these Ultras as they're just melting them one by one. There's only 2 Ultras left out on the field. Franscar does not have any units. In fact, he's making 6 Ultras, but I don't know which hatcheries they're from, and those 22 Zerglings are just gonna melt to the Archons. Here comes the reinforcement units, but RSVP is doing a nice job. He's certainly gonna take down the hatchery over here.
And I really like how we're seeing this. Zerg is so similar in Brood War, where the Zerg units trickle in one by one. One Ultralisk, a couple Zerglings, more Ultralisk, a couple Zerglings, just like in Brood War. Not the huge, larva cycles that you have in StarCraft 2. So it's a very different way of defending a base.
Yeah,
or trying to survive.
Trying to survive as much as possible, that's really tricky. Because once the Ultras come in, you're like, oh crap, those cows are coming in once again. And behind this, RSVP is not taking a fort base, so For him, yes, taking down the natural was great, but he needs to take this hatchery inside the main base out in order for this attack to be worth it, because he's not looking towards expanding anywhere soon. His main base and the natural has been dried out completely. His third base is going to dry out soon because of the number of probes over there, so he really needs to watch out. And rsvp, while having a nice army lead, he still needs to conserve his army, because soon he's not going to have any minerals or gas.
It seems like both players are just giving up on trying to make this game last any longer. Franscar bringing out all his queens, bringing out all the army together. They just seem they want to duke it out and see who can win off of these bases. None of them are really trying to secure any more bases at this time. Just gathering up armies.
I like what Franscar is doing. Initially, after seeing the Nexus at the bottom left position, he knows that rsvp does not have a fort base after the cancel. So he has some units over there. He knows that there's a probe inside there, but he's bringing all these units out because he's saying, you know what, if I just defend against my opponent once, then I'm going to win the game, because he has no economy. While he's also trying to take a fort base for himself over at the 3 o'clock position, but the DT is already in position.
Ooh, nice catch for Franscar there. A couple of Archons were out of position, and getting Archon kills at this point in the game is incredibly important. Archons is probably the most important late game unit you can have, maybe except for High Templars in the Protoss army.
Alright, and seems like rsvp does not want Franscar to have a third fort base once again, as he tries to move his Dragoons over there, but the Zerglings are going to try to surround the Dragoons.
Very nice surround by the Zerglings.
And here comes the Ultras, but there's no supporting units for the Ultras. There's a DT mix in there with the High Templar and the Archon, but remember, Ultras are really strong, but that's a little bit too much for Franscar, as rsvp has to pull out of there. He's going to have to give up the third 3 o'clock hatchery.
Ooh, goes for the transfuses so he can turn the Ultralisks again, but I like the decision of pulling out the Ultralisk once they're weak and once they do not have any more Zergling support. So get some more Zerglings out and keep the Ultralisks alive. Those are the expensive units, and I like that decision.
Well, Franscar does not want to let rsvp go home for free, but there's so many units over there, and with nice mix of Archons, I'm not too sure if attacking into this is the correct idea.
Want to see some more transfuses again. I think that would be really nice. Some of these Ultralisks are hurting pretty badly, and there we go. Franscar is getting his fourth base up on the left side again. We have an observer there, so he should be spotting this, but there's not too much rsvp can do at this time. rsvp also is again trying to get an expansion. It's a very, very slow expansion game here, very low econ all the way. They're drying out. If you look at rsvp's economy, there's nothing in the main base, nothing in the natural. Third base is getting empty, so he really, really needs this fourth base at the moment.
I mean, this is what happens if the Zerg player and the Protoss player constantly denies the bases. You get a really low econ game where Franscar, he has all the gas that he wants right now. 1500 gas, but he doesn't have any minerals to spend the gas on. And Franscar is going to try to attack into this army, but I'm not too sure if this is the right idea. He needs to pull back.
Not. This Protoss army, I don't know where rsvp is pulling these units from, but he just magically gets huge blobs of Protoss units together.
But behind this, Franscar is doing a very nice job denying the fort base again. So Franscar, all he has to do is buy as much time as possible, get more overlords out, or try to fight it and win this battle. But the swords are actually amazing on these Ultras. They're going to melt every single one of them. The Dragoons are still left alive, and the Transfuses are going to keep the Ultras alive for now. But the supply has fallen drastically for Franscar, as it's 117 to 88.
Yeah, that was a really nice engagement for rsvp there. I really like the Darkstorm though, but it was just a little bit too late. He was a little bit late with the consuming for the Defiler. Very few queens left to do any more transfusing. I really like the idea though, initially of bringing out the queens with the Ultralisk army. And getting a little plague off there, that's nice.
Getting a little plague is nice, but he's gonna need a lot more than just a little plague if he wants back into this game.
Actually has five Ultralisks incoming.
There's 5 Ultras incoming, but does he have... Can he actually get those units out before rsvp takes down another hatchery? Remember, he still has 5 Archons left in the mix, and Franscar, he wants to engage into this, but rsvp is not allowing him to do so, except for this one Archon. Poor Archon.
Yeah, nice catch for that Archon there, and he really tried to, to kite that army back and forth as long as possible, making sure he could, wait for as long as possible to get those reinforcements out. And the base goes down again, but here comes the army, and I don't know if it's going to be enough. We have a couple of Dark Swarms out. They're going to be very well protected from the Archon Splash and the Dragoon shots in that Dark Swarm.
Yeah, and because of the Dark Swarm, rsvp does not have enough units to take out this army, so finally his main force is gone. He does have a third fort base, excuse me, at the bottom left position. But there's only a couple of zones which are going to melt easily to the Ultras, and what Franscar did really well in this engagement is that he kept his Ultralisks alive.
Oh, he's going to try and get this Dark Temple through, but the Dark Temple, oh, he's getting an Ultralisk for his effort, and that's a really nice trade for him.
Alright, so now the key point is, Franscar, he's really low on econ. He's only down to 1 mining base, which is something that Zerg does not want to do. He's also taking an expansion on the left side, but if he can take out this Nexus at the bottom left position, then the game is over and Franscar is going to win. So can he actually do it? There's only pure zones over here. Oh, the high tempo gonna try to get some storms, but instead storms his own probe instead. And rsvp does not have enough zones over here to defend against the Ultras, but no, Franscar is not in perfect position. So he's gonna have to run away from this.
He really does not want to lose that Defiler. I think he had enough energy for a Plague with at least a Dark Storm, so that was a big loss for Franscar at that time. And it's really going to come down to this, like you said. We have one base here that rsvp needs desperately to get up, and we have a Zergling run by in the main base again. I don't know if that's really necessary at this time. He might be able to stop a lot of production from rsvp, but he's not going to stop his economy in any way.
I mean, this move is really nice earlier in the game when the Protoss player is not focusing on the natural, because they always think that there's some Zealous or Archons to defend the Zerglings going inside the main base. Right now it's different. He needs to have his full army over here to make sure that he can go for one final attack and wipe out the Protoss army completely.
Well, actually, at exactly this point, he's making Banelings, but exactly at this point, Franscar is taking 2 expansions while rsvp is only taking 1, and Franscar should easily be able to secure the 11 o'clock base in the top left corner, so he doesn't really need to attack now, but he's gonna do anyway. No, he turns around. Very indecisive here.
He's trying to bait out some storms over here. He's trying to see if he can actually go in. Not too sure if he has to force the attack, however, but here comes the Bellings. Oh, they're going to connect.
Oh, wow.
All of the cells. He has nothing left over, and Franscar is free to attack whenever he wants to now.
And catching an Archon too, wow, he's just been having a lot of good engagement all along this game, almost feeling a little bit lucky there versus rsvp, and now all the Ultralisks are going to go to town. They are fully upgraded Ultralisks, and I don't think rsvp can do anything from this point.
Well, this is it, ladies and gentlemen, as Franscar, he's going to take out every single probe at this base. The probes are going to run away, but they have no mining base to go to. As Franscar, he's going to dominate this Nexus over here. Here comes a little high tempo saying, hello, goodbye world.
Well, rsvp is trying to send a small squad off to take off Franscar's base, but at this point I don't really think it's going to matter. rsvp is broke, he has no income, and even if he kills this base, which is being plagued by its own Defiler, then that is probably not going to change the outcome of this game.
And this is how you're supposed to play PvC. If you try to go for a 3-base timing attack, you need to make it work. And behind this, you need to secure a fort base. If you do not secure a fort base, and do not finish the game with a force, then you're just gonna fall out of the game eventually because you do not have enough minerals and gas to make units.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Franscar taking a game over Starbow ladder champion rsvp. So that's a rare thing to see, but he played brilliantly the whole game, a lot of back and forward. Thank you so much for joining me today, SuperNovaManiac. It's been a pleasure casting with you.
Same here.